Welcome back into the Foolish Club Media post-game show. I am Steven Serda, joined as always by my guy, Rocky Magaña. Rocky, well, the Kansas City Chiefs are 4-0 with a 17-10 win over the banged-up Los Angeles Chargers. Still not the type of performance that you feel like overwhelmingly positive about. And obviously, Rashee Rice suffering a serious knee injury in the first quarter of this game seems like it was pretty much a catastrophic trip to Los Angeles for the Kansas City Chiefs, but they're still undefeated on the season, Rocky, and they sit at 4-0 after Sunday's very ugly game that still winds up being a win.
I mean, the first half made me wanted to walk into traffic, if I'm being honest. Like, it was like the girl I dated before I met my wife. Like, it'd be our anniversary and we'd go out on the town and I would get home and I would just feel horrible about myself, even though we just had like an anniversary dinner. That's how I feel about this victory. It's like, yeah, we're 4-0. And I don't want to be the naysayer, but I'm just sitting here, like, just contemplating my life choices because Mahomes looked like crap in the first half. The defense was awesome. The Chargers had no answer for our pass rush or our run defense. Our run defense continues to look like the best in the NFL, quite frankly. But I mean, the one thing we couldn't do is lose Rashee Rice right now, and it's not looking good. Like, it's a win, but it's a bad win. It's how it feels.
Yeah, and we'll be on the lookout for any possible update from Chiefs head coach Andy Reid when he takes the podium. But obviously, the play that cost it all was for a team that's won multiple Super Bowl titles back to back, and this is the three-peat season, Rocky. It also feels like a team that has kind of just limped by in the regular season for several years now, and kind of feels like they're not bringing all of their stuff every single week. But they still always find a way to do it, and they still always find a way to accomplish their goals and turn it on in the postseason, like kind of living that life on the edge where we get so frustrated week after week because we're like, they're so much better than this. Why can't they just have a dominating win? Why do they have to do this every single week where they play down to their competition? And then in the first quarter, first off, you have an early Carson Steele fumble on the Chiefs opening possession, which immediately is like, great, shocker. Chiefs early turnover that leads to an immediate score by the Chargers, and the defense was great today, and we'll get into all of that stuff here on Foolish Club Media. But even though the defense was great, they come out of the gate slow, and they seem to do that every single week now, and teams seem to be able to score on them every single week. I think it's happened all four weeks of the regular season so far. And then just a terrible interception by Patrick Mahomes yet again, another week where he just makes a terrible throw, and you're just like, Patrick, like, we have higher standards for you. Like, you got to stop making these awful throws. And for some reason, Mahomes goes out there and tries to make a tackle. And I'm sure it's frustration, and in the heat of the moment, he's upset with himself, and he's just trying to make sure they don't take that thing to the house or whatever. But Rashee Rice is in the mix of it. Mahomes accidentally takes out Rashee Rice, and Rashee Rice immediately goes down, starts grabbing his knee, can't put any weight on it when he goes over the sideline, gets carted to the locker room. And then Chiefs head coach Andy Reid at halftime said he didn't have an update on Rashee Rice, but that it's not good. And we've been NFL fans for a long time, Rocky, and you see knee injuries like this across the league. Basically, at this point, the most positive outcome is that it's just not a season-ending injury. Like, even if it's hey, he's going to be out for 10 weeks or 12 weeks or something like that, you're like, okay, amazing. At least he'll be back at some point this season. But it looks like a very concerning injury for the Chiefs star wide receiver who had been the focal point of the offense so far this year, and it hadn't even been close.
I did not have Patrick Mahomes throwing an interception and then missing a tackle and blowing out Rashee Rice's knee on my bingo sheet as things that could possibly stop us from a three-peat. Like that was like if you put all the things out there, that was the one thing that probably was not on there. But here we are. Yeah, like right now, worst case scenario is Rashee Rice is not back until after his suspension next year. Like that's the worst case scenario. If it's an ACL, he might not be back until after a suspension next year. We might not see him again. And I'm not saying the sky is falling because I said the sky was falling last year, and I said I would never do that with Reed and Mahomes again because they proved me wrong last year. But damn, the sky sure looks pretty effing cloudy right now, Steven Serda. And I want to stay positive, but this Chiefs team is negative 16 in turnover differential since last season. Negative 16. They won the Super Bowl being negative 11 in turnover differential last year. And now they're negative 5 this year so far. And it might be negative 6 if I'm not counting correctly. So they might be negative 17 since last year. Like, and Carson Steele's an undrafted rookie free agent. You can't expect too much out of him. But I do expect his role to significantly diminish after this week. I think that you saw that after he put the ball on the ground. Andy pretty much took him out of the game and leaned on Hunt and Pirine the rest of the way out for all meaningful touches.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I think the bright side was that you saw that Kareem Hunt is the best running back currently on this roster that's healthy. And what does that say about this running back roster that the guy who's the best running back on this team was sitting on the couch 2 weeks ago? Now, you could say Kareem Hunt shouldn't have been sitting on the couch 2 weeks ago. I don't think he should have been sitting on the couch at all, but he was. And so, I mean, sweet Jesus, I'm not going to be negative today, Steven. Don't try to bring it out of me because we're 4-0 and we have a 2-game lead in the AFC West. So, like, I mean, and the Chiefs came back from a 10-point deficit today. And that was a bomb-ass throw by Mahomes to Xavier Worthy for a touchdown. Like there were bright moments in this game. Chris Jones is an animal. He's an absolute stud, right? I mean, there was a lot of good things.
Well, and I want to get into some of the positives too, and I want to talk about that because I think there were positives in this game, and Kareem Hunt included in the Chiefs defense, being like I'm ready to fully commit to like this is a defensive team now. And last season was not an anomaly. That's just how this team's got to play moving forward. But I just want to have an easy game, Rocky. Like, can we just see this team have an easy game for 1 week where it doesn't seem like they have to have they have to overcome all of these obstacles that half the time are their own doing? Like, can we just see them put together an easy win for once? Like, and I think it's going to start with Patrick Mahomes. Like, we'll see what comes out about Rashee Rice. I don't know if we're going to get any confirmation from Andy Reid. Sometimes, you know, if they find a way to get that thing confirmed, like, and it was so early in the game, you know, maybe they were able to, you know, run more tests on it and kind of get where it is. And maybe we'll get the Chiefs fear that this is the injury that Rashee Rice suffered in Sunday's win over the Chargers or whatever. And so hopefully we'll have some information about that. If not, it'll probably be sometime tomorrow where we'll get some kind of confirmation about what's going on with him. But all you're hoping for is that it's not a season-ending injury and that it's not a devastating loss for a Chiefs team that Rashee Rice was playing through the first 3 games of the season like a legitimate superstar. And like, he was the offense through the first 3 games of the season. But now they're going to have to figure it out because whether he's going to be back this season or next season, or depending on what the time frame is, you got to move forward expecting he's not going to be available anytime soon. And no Hollywood Brown, who is unlikely to play in the regular season, maybe has a chance in the playoffs, assuming this thing doesn't totally collapse for the Chiefs for whatever reason. Like, yeah, you might get some help down the line. But now it's Sky Moore is in the game, and you need plays from Sky Moore, unfortunately. Justin Watson and Noah Gray made a couple of plays today for Patrick Mahomes. Travis Kelce finally got going, and then Xavier Worthy, the deep shot, and Worthy didn't do much else in the game. He had a couple other catches and a key first down late in the game. But like, he's going to have to be a bigger part of the offense moving forward. But Rocky, the most important thing for this Kansas City Chiefs team is that Patrick Mahomes needs to get it together. Like he just simply, they have to stop having just unforced turnovers. There's got to stop being dumb interceptions and mistakes that he makes in uncharacteristics, because Rocky, through 4 games, Patrick Mahomes has not played anything close to the best football that we've seen him play. Like, he's bailing out of pockets when he doesn't really need to. He's forcing things that aren't there. He's making bad decisions. And it's just, I don't know if it's the offensive line and he just has to settle in and kind of get used to that, or what's going on with him right now. But without Rashee Rice, without that easy button that we had seen for this Chiefs offense through the first 3 weeks of the season, Mahomes simply has to play better. Like, he can't continue to play this way if they want to have a chance to get where they're trying to go and make NFL history this season.
I mean, launch Sky Moore into the sun for all I care. He is a net negative on this team. He is not adding anything positive to this offense. I mean, at this point, it's like, why is he on the roster? If I'm being honest, I mean, bring up Nico Remigio and give him a shot. I mean, the Chiefs are going to have to look at the market and try to see who's out there, because if Rashee Rice is out for the season, they don't have the firepower with Xavier Worthy and Travis Kelce and Juju Smith-Schuster to go on the run that they want to go on. I mean, that's just a fact, because Xavier Worthy is an awesome home run threat. We saw that today. Like he is that one big play, game-changing type of player. But they need the guy who's going to catch 10 passes a game, like Rashee Rice was, right? I mean, and that's the fact. And right now in free agency, for a guy like that, you're looking at what, Hunter Renfrow or Russell Gage? Like that guy's not out there right now. So then, okay, Veach is going to have to pull off a trade. Well, who's out there to trade for? The pickings are slim, because nobody's going to want to give the Chiefs a top-end wide receiver that they can use to make a Super Bowl run. I mean, and for all the talk that Mahomes had this past week about, I got to get my footwork right, my footwork's off. Bro, you didn't do anything to fix your footwork this week. Like, you talked about it, but you didn't do anything to fix it. You're still out there throwing off your back foot. You're still out there floating the ball. You're not stepping into your throw. You're not being that effing dude who can just sling it. Like, you got one of the greatest arms in the history of football, and you don't use the damn thing.
Yeah, I do think our friend from Arrowhead Pride, Ron Kopp, I thought had a good line last week where he said, MVS seems to have just like ruined Mahomes' deep ball, because like Mahomes had to adjust so much and how he threw the ball, because MVS was incapable of making like a regular catch and going up and getting the football or catching something in stride. Like, it was always stop and have to go up and make it more difficult than it needed to be. And it's like he had to like put more air underneath it to make sure it would kind of drop and hang more and like easily drop into his arms, because it was the only way he would actually like make a play. And maybe there is something to that. But at the end of the day, like, we know who Patrick Mahomes is and we know what he's capable of. And now without Rashee Rice for an extended period of time, or possibly the rest of the regular season, like, they're going to need him to step up, and they're going to need him to play better than he has through 4 games. And I think the same can be said about Travis Kelce, who finally puts it together today. Rocky has 7 receptions for 89 yards and was finally a focal point of the offense again. But all of that came really after Rashee Rice goes out early in the first quarter. But, this idea that, the Chiefs were just like, yeah, we're trying to get other guys reps in, and we know we're a good football team, and we know we can still win football games without getting Kelce hyper involved. And at his age, we want to rest him for the postseason because we know how important he is on the big stage when the games really matter. But now you're in a situation, Rocky, where coming into the season, we thought Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, Isaiah Pacheco, like, this offense is finally going to take off. And now all of a sudden, you're kind of back to the same group you had last season, and now you need 34-year-old Travis Kelce to be a superstar on a weekly basis. Like, the running game helped today, and I want to talk about Kareem Hunt a little bit, but I would expect that's probably what we're going to see. Hopefully we get Worthy more involved and they find ways to just get the ball in his hands. Maybe McCole Hardman is going to get back into the mix a little bit more because he's been mostly just a special teams player, not an offense player through 4 games. But Travis Kelce's going to be the guy. Like, sorry, Travis, I know we were trying to rest those old bones and make sure you're healthy for January, but at this point, we're going to need you to start taking 12 targets a game because we don't really have anybody else we can rely on now.
100%. And I mean, Travis is going to have to be that dude. I mean, he's going to have the best regular season the rest of the way out because the Chiefs don't have anybody else right now. I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster, if he was going to be that dude that could step up when Rashee Rice goes down, he would have done it today. But he was complete crickets out there. He's AARP Rashee Rice, at this point. And he just doesn't have it left in the tank anymore. And so it's going to have to be Travis Kelce and Xavier Worthy. And from now on, like it's just one of those things where it's like you get into a situation and you're like, this isn't what I signed up for. Right? like I signed up for a good offense this year. Like we knew the defense was going to be good and we signed up for exciting football, and the Chiefs still are probably the favorites to three-peat. Like the defense is legit. Nobody's going to be able to run the ball against them. They're going to be one-dimensional teams that they're playing against. And so, I mean, it's just, we're going to have a lot of close games, and it's going to be a really frustrating regular season. And then the playoffs are the playoffs. Anything happens in the playoffs, and the Chiefs always seem to find another gear in the playoffs, and they're going to make me look stupid for sitting here and wringing my hands for 17 weeks, 18 weeks in the regular season, and for 17 games. And I just wanted it to be easy this year, Steven. Like, I just wanted to go into the season and say, our offense is going to be dope. This is going to be fun. We're going to have some big victories. The Chiefs are going to get a three-peat, and they're going to create history. But then, like, here we are again, the exact same song and dance we had last year.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. That's the cost of winning Super Bowls. You have to be on the verge of having a heart attack every week during the regular season watching this football team, and that's the price you pay for success in the postseason, apparently, because it is a season where we thought the offense was finally going to return to form and be this explosive, high-powered offense once again. And on top of that, the defense, coming into the season, we had some question marks, and they still have some areas where they're weaker this year than they were last year, but their defense still looks like it's legitimately a top 10 defense in the NFL. And it looks like it is by far the better of the two units on this team so far through 4 games. So they still sit here at 4-0, but that doesn't mean that there aren't concerns about the Kansas City Chiefs moving forward. And I see a lot of you in the comments section. We'll try to get to some of your observations about the game. So make sure you hop in there. If you have any questions, observations, anything you want us to hit here by the end of the show, we'll try to do that for you guys. But we mentioned Xavier Worthy, and Chris Jones or Patrick Mahomes finally connects deep with Worthy, 54-yard touchdown. It was the first 50-plus yard touchdown for the Kansas City Chiefs in what feels like 5 years, Rocky. And it was at a critical moment in the game where through the first quarter, it was a total disaster and everything looked like it was unraveling. And I felt like I was like, this is like Raiders Christmas Day all over again. Like, just going to get totally smacked by the Chargers when half their starting offensive line is out and half their defense is banged up and not playing. And the Chiefs just showed up and looked totally uninterested, lose a star player in the first quarter. And then the defense really settles down and they get things back in the mix. Mahomes finally makes a play and hits Worthy deep for the touchdown. And they need more of that, Rocky. They need more of that. They have to find ways to get him manufactured touches. And I think that the biggest issue that we're going to see moving forward with Xavier Worthy, which, you want to build on today's game, you want to build on his week 1 performance and the flashes that he's shown so far, It's just that I don't think the Chiefs think that they can give him the type of workload that Rashee Rice was taking on, because he's a smaller bodied wide receiver. He can't take the kind of punishment, and he doesn't bring the tackle breaking ability that a Rashee Rice has. And Xavier Worthy has shown some of that ability too. Like, he's not afraid to take a hit. Like, I'm not questioning that about him as a smaller NFL wide receiver. It's just about his body size and the punishment that he is going to take. Like, Kelsey's got to be that over the middle guy, and Xavier Worthy's got to be the guy that stretches the field. Or if Andy can find more ways to get him involved, get him working in the screen game, and just try to get him out into space where he can just turn on the afterburners and cruise to the end zone. Like, that's what they're going to have to do, because the offense is going to have to change moving forward, because it really, we can't underestimate like how important Rashee Rice was. Like, this whole thing was built around him through 3 weeks. And now it seems like he is going to be out of the mix for the near future, and probably much longer, if you're going to read into what the injury looked like and how the Chiefs were acting about it through the rest of the game. But it's going to be the Kelsey and Worthy show, because the Chiefs don't really have any other answers. Like, Noah Gray had kind of a nice game today, but do you want to rely on Noah Gray moving forward? Jared Wiley hasn't done anything so far in his NFL career. Is he going to be in the mix more? Because you can't rely on Sky Moore. Critical third down. We're trying to get something going. Sky Moore, just drop. Okay, yeah. Don't need to see Sky Moore out there anymore. Like, it's going to be the rushing attack, and it's going to be Worthy and Kelsey moving forward. And then Mahomes is just going to have to make some plays and try to keep them afloat on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and the rough thing is that last year, the cheat code that the Chiefs had with Rashee Rice and the cheat code they had with Kelsey when he was younger is that wide shallow cross across the middle. Like Andy Reid loves running wide shallow cross with his young wide receivers. Hit them on the run, let them get some yak, right? You can't do that with Worthy. Like, he's, like you said, like his body type is just not big enough. He can't take those hits across the middle on the wide shallow cross. So he's going to have to play outside the hashes. He's going to stretch the field. He has to learn how to come back to the ball, right? He's going to have to learn how his route tree is going to have to improve and grow exponentially very quickly, just because the Chiefs don't have a choice. Like, he's more than just a deep threat. Like, he can be a complete wide receiver that could run a complete route tree, but Andy Reid's offense is really complex. Right, he's got to master it. Like the Chiefs just don't have an option. Like, he's got to be the dude at wide receiver, and he's got to be the dude starting. Like literally 3 quarters ago, he had to be the dude. And it's going to be interesting to see if he's up to the challenge. It's going to be interesting to see what the Chiefs do, because you have the greatest quarterback in the history of football. And then at the same time, you have so many injuries that you want to run the ball and play ball control offense and then just lean on your defense. Like, it's the exact opposite of where Andy Reid wants to go with his offense. And we saw last year that Andy Reid made the concessions. Like, he said, okay, I'm going to have to run the ball in the playoffs, and we're going to lead on the defense and let the defense win us football games. Well, you're going to do that now too, Andy, because your weapons are all injured. And this is like, it's the worst possible scenario aside from Mahomes being the one that went down. Like, you couldn't draw up a worst possible offensive scenario for the Chiefs than what they currently find themselves in.
It's just brutal. And I know we do this every single year in the NFL, just like, oh, this is the worst injury year I've ever seen. And last year it was the year of the injured quarterback, where it felt like half the teams across the entire league were playing backup quarterbacks because everybody was going down every other week. And this year I guess it's superstar players like Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Christian McCaffrey, Isaiah Pacheco, Rashee Rice, AJ Brown, like, across the entire league. There's just star players going down left and right. And I don't know if it's actually any worse than it has been in other years, but just like all of those other teams, like, Chiefs are just going to have to figure it out. And we've seen them do it last year. They did it with the worst wide receiver core in the NFL last season until they decided to lean on Rashee Rice. So I'm not saying they can't figure it out. Like I think the pieces and the minds in place there, and Patrick Mahomes just by himself, like they will get something cooking and they will get this figured out. But Rocky, I think at this point, it feels pretty safe to say that the Chiefs are straight up a defensive team right now. Like this defense is, despite all of our questions coming in the season, it's like, they traded L'Jarius Sneed. The linebacker depth could be a real issue. Are they deep enough at pass rusher until they can get Charles Omenihu back? And then Mike Dana pops up on the injury report this week and is out. And so they have to lean on Felix more today and get him in the mix. Like, and at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because your two star players are legitimate bona fide stars in Chris Jones and Trent McDuffie. And Chris Jones was totally unblockable today. Like the Chiefs do not win this football game if Chris Jones isn't out there, because he was just making play after play after play and totally just wreaking havoc all over that decimated Chargers offensive line. Like Chris Jones was an absolute monster today, and he's having a monster season. Like I know he gets a lot of hype and love, but I think this is like through 4 games this year, I think we're seeing some of the best football of Chris Jones's career for the Kansas City Chiefs. Like he has been an absolute game wrecker through 4 contests for them. And overall, their defense looks like it's a legitimate top 10 defense. Their run defense has been the best run defense that they've had in what feels like 20 years. Like they're legitimately just totally shutting things down on the ground. Trent McDuffie continues to play like a star. Jalen Watson had some really nice plays today. Like their secondary continues to look good, and it looks like they have a lot of depth there, even though we had questions about that cornerback room. Like this is a straight up defensive team now, and we're going to see the Chiefs slow things down, run the football, probably try not to turn it over as much as they have been. And they're going to lean on this defense like we saw them do down the stretch last year, because the defense is the superior unit right now.
Without a doubt. I mean, this is the defensive team right now, which is crazy because, like I said, Patrick Mahomes is the best player to ever play the game. But the facts are facts. Like Chris Jones was completely unblockable. And yeah, the Chargers offensive line was decimated. Justin Herbert was limping around the field the entire game, but the Chiefs pass rush was literally in his lap. Like they took every advantage of the Chargers offensive line being banged up. And Trent McDuffie was a complete stud as always. Like the defense looked really, really good in this game. And the Chargers offense, they made the Chargers offense outside of the first quarter when they had one good drive look completely toothless. Like there was you had no concern that the Chiefs got the lead, that the Chargers were going to be able to drive down the field and take the lead back or score to tie the game. Like this wasn't like in previous weeks where you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to come down to the final play and we hope the defense can hold on. You were like, if the offense can do enough to get the lead, which they did, they're going to hold on to it because the Chargers can't do anything offensively here. And part of that's because Jim Harbaugh wants to run the ball 60% of the time in 2024, and he's going to live and die by running the ball, even though the Chiefs have one of the best rushing defenses in football. And we saw once again that Steve Spagnuolo had a game plan that was heads and tails ahead of what the opposing team's offensive coordinators were able to cook up. He knows when to dial up the blitzes. He knows where to bring them from. He knows all the right buttons to push. And at the same time, they got a couple of chunk plays, but they didn't give up the big play. The Chargers didn't have any 65-yard touchdown plays.
Yeah.
Right. They kept everything in front of them, and they made the Chargers work for everything. And then they put pressure on Justin Herbert. And going into the game, that's what we said. We said, listen, if the Chiefs can hit Justin Herbert, there's no way they're going to win this game because they don't have the receivers to win one-on-one on the outside, and they're not going to be able to run the ball against the Chiefs. Like the more you hit Justin Herbert or whatever quarterback was going to be back there, the more success the Chiefs were going to have. And that's what the Chiefs did. They beat up Justin Herbert in the pocket, and he was limping around the field, and they were unable to move the ball. They completely neutralized J.K. Dobbins. I mean, so from a defensive standpoint, this was a freaking masterclass.
Yeah.
Right? You couldn't ask for anything more from the defense.
This was a Chargers rushing attack that was absolutely running all over everybody coming into this game. Like, that's the way they want to play football. They want to run. They want to ball control. They want to be conservative in the passing game and not risk turning the football over, and then try to play sound defense. Like, that is Jim Harbaugh. That is exactly what he is looking to do on a weekly basis. But the Chiefs were just the far more talented team, which is why even in a game that started out catastrophic in every possible way, the Chiefs again find a way to get it done. And Rocky, at this point, like, after going through an entire regular season last year and being like, oh no, this team doesn't have it, and then we get to the playoffs, so it's like, oh no, they're champions, like, they're fine. Well, what were we ever worried about? Like, that's just where I'm at with this team again. Like, I don't know if we're ever going to get like an A+ performance from them in the regular season. Like, I just don't think they do it anymore. And it is annoying and it is frustrating, but also they continue to win. And so it feels dumb to complain about that, even though it is a little bit frustrating. And, I do want to mention too, Andy Reid speaking after the game, after the Chiefs 17-10 win over the Los Angeles Chargers, asked about Rice. He said that he would have an MRI tomorrow, but added, I'm sure it's not as good of news as we want. So it doesn't seem like the Chiefs are particularly optimistic that Rashee Rice is going to be able to come back from this thing anytime soon. So that's not really what you want to hear. And Andy Reid typically won't give a lot of information about that stuff, but we have seen him. I believe it was Tershawn Wharton last year, where I think he just straight up said in the post-game press conference, like, he tore his ACL. He's going to be done for the year. Like, and so they're going to have an MRI. They're going to confirm that. And some of that's probably because they're out on the road in LA. So they want to get back to the team facilities and get with their doctors and get all that stuff figured out. But it does not seem like the Chiefs are particularly optimistic that Rashee Rice is going to be back and available anytime soon for them. But I do want to talk about Kareem Hunt in this rushing attack before we get out of here, Rocky, because Kareem Hunt, fresh off the street, coming back into Kansas City, and it is this kind of for Chiefs fans, it's love Kareem Hunt or hate him. I think it's kind of an interesting story here in the NFL this season for a player that had some great years here in Kansas City and then kind of looked like he was on the downward turn in his NFL career. But he did mention this week that he was playing through a hernia injury last season that he felt like he was never really able to overcome, and that slowed him down a little bit. And today, Rocky, after Carson Steele fumbles early in the football game, Carson Steele ends the game with only 2 carries for the Kansas City Chiefs, and they were obviously frustrated. That's Carson Steele's second fumble. He had a fumbling problem in college as well. Samaje Perine a little bit in the mix, but Kareem Hunt, after they called him up and signed him to the 53-man roster this week, he finishes the game 14 carries, 69 yards, averaged 4.9 yards per rush. And Rocky, I thought Kareem Hunt looked pretty good. Like, I thought Kareem Hunt had a little bit more juice than I thought he had at this point in his career. Thought he was running hard. I thought he was fighting for yards, and I think that I'm okay with Kareem Hunt being the lead back moving forward until Isaiah Pacheco is back and healthy. Like, what I saw from Kareem Hunt today, and I know Carson Steele has put together some nice performances, and he looked okay last week. The fumbling thing is a problem, but what I saw from Kareem Hunt today makes me think like he should easily be the Chiefs lead back moving forward. I thought he had more juice. I thought he just looked safer and more secure than Carson Steele, who I don't think he's done by any means, but I think the fumbling issues are something the Chiefs just aren't going to risk at this point, especially when they're turning the football over at just a high rate as they were early last season.
Well, especially if Rashee Rice is out for an extended period of time, like you don't have the same like rope to give to a guy like Carson Steele on the possibility that he's going to turn the ball over. You trust Kareem Hunt's ball security a lot more than you trust Carson Steele's right now. And man, listen, there's always mixed emotions with Kareem Hunt, considering like how he left the team and coming back and everything. But man, I found myself rooting for Kareem Hunt today, man. I wanted to see him get in the end zone, especially when he had that awesome run there at the end and he was doing like the feed me sign on the ground. I was like, man, just give him the ball on the goal line and let him punch it in. And then they gave it to Samaje Perine, and I was like, a little bit of me was like justice for Kareem Hunt. And that's crazy because when he left the team, I was like, get Kareem Hunt off of this team, right? But like, it's just the silver lining. If we're looking for silver linings today, I'm not going to be a naysayer Listen, it is what it is. Chiefs have a 2-game lead on the division. Blah, 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 blah. Kareem Hunt looked awesome. He looked like, for considering he hasn't played a game all year long, he didn't have a training camp. He was literally right off the couch coming in 2 weeks ago. He looked awesome. He's not the same player he was when he was younger in his career. Fine. He's still the best person that the Chiefs have on this roster. He's better than Carson Steele. He's better than Samaje Perine. Hell, I'm going to say it. He might be better than Isaiah Pacheco at this point. I mean, as far as like being able to break tackles, I mean, because Isaiah Pacheco runs hard and he runs fast. And I love Isaiah Pacheco, but he doesn't break tackles. And so, listen, Hunt being in the game is the silver lining to this. Moving forward, he needs to be the Chiefs' lead back. He needs to be the workhorse, and they need to lean on him more. And they're going to have to. It's going to have to be Kareem Hunt and Travis Kelce moving forward.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm willing to bet that, like, you know, maybe Kareem Hunt really does like have something left in the tank and he can come back and be like this great story in the NFL this season and all of a sudden, you know, be like a legitimate week to week difference maker for the Kansas City Chiefs. But I think if you got what you got from him today, the rest of the way, that's perfectly adequate. Like, that'll do. Like, he doesn't have to look like he did when he played for them in 2018, where he looked like he was one of, you know, the 5 best running backs in all of the NFL. I don't think he's that kind of player anymore. But if you get this from him on a weekly basis, that's fine, because the Chiefs need to run the football. Like, they're better on offense at this point when they run the football and don't try to force things. And then Mahomes can settle in a little bit more, and the defense has to respect their ground game a little bit more too. So I think that's the best version of this Chiefs offense moving forward until they figure something else out in the passing game. And I think it's going to be Xavier Worthy and Travis Kelce are just going to have to be much more involved moving forward here until they get things figured out, because they are not optimistic about Rashee Rice. So it's, you know, for the Kansas City Chiefs moving forward, it's continue to play incredible defense, continue to let Chris Jones absolutely wreck games, and then try to run the football and play a little bit conservative on offense to make sure you don't shoot yourselves in the foot, because that's what they tend to do. And, you know, next week they've got Monday Night Football matchup against the New Orleans Saints. And I know through 2 weeks, everybody was all in on the Saints and Derek Carr, and this offense is like the most efficient, explosive offense in football. And now the Saints are 2-2 with back-to-back very underwhelming performances for the most part, which is very typical Saints and Derek Carr fashion. But that's still a tough football team that the Chiefs are hosting on Monday night in Week 5. So it's a contest they're going to have to prepare for, and it sounds like they're going to be extremely shorthanded in that game as they look to try to stay undefeated on the season. But Rocky, they continue to find a way. We can't always explain it. We can't always find the reasons why they do the things that they do and why they try to give us a heart attack on a weekly basis. But they're 4-0, and that's all that matters. And I think even with all of the injuries that they're dealing with, if they find a way to overcome all of those obstacles, I still believe that they are one of the absolute best teams in the NFL. And they are and should still be the favorites to win the Super Bowl again this season.
Oh, I 100% agree. I mean, they are still the favorites to win the Super Bowl. And until they don't, they're going to remain the favorites in my mind. I mean, especially after last year, right? Like last year was like the most down year that the Chiefs were going to have. And they still were able to come through and win a Super Bowl. And even with all the injuries they have right now, I still feel like this is a more talented team than they had last season, surprisingly enough, just because of the addition of Kareem Hunt, just because of the addition of Xavier Worthy, right? And I think that they're having one more year with this defense. Now, I am kind of excited to watch them play next week, because they're essentially playing against the Kansas City Chiefs alumni defense, right? Down there in New Orleans, you got Willie Gay, Tyrann Mathieu, and Colin Saunders, all three playing in New Orleans. And so you have 3 guys who are very familiar with Patrick Mahomes and his tendencies. And so the Chiefs will have to come out and be prepared for that. But there's absolutely no reason to like push a panic button But if I have like a yellow concern button, like if I could just raise a concern or two, that's where I'm at right now.
So, and this just coming out from Jordan Schultz as well as Adam Schefter at basically the exact same time. The fear is that Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice suffered a season-ending torn ACL. Again, from head coach Andy Reid after the game, he's going to have an MRI in the morning. But as of right now, according to his sources, the team is fearing the worst. So I think they were making that pretty apparent from Andy Reid's post-game comments. So that's an absolutely devastating injury. If that does get confirmed on Monday, obviously stay locked into Foolish Club Media. We'll have all the updates for you. We'll be back tomorrow with the latest edition of the Daily Fix. But as of right now, it seems like the Chiefs lost their superstar wide receiver, Rashee Rice, on just an unreal play, just an unbelievably unlucky play. And what an awful way to lose a player like that who was coming to his own in year number 2 and looking like a legitimate NFL superstar. So let's get to a couple of comments and then wrap this thing up so I can stop being stressed about this football team for a couple of hours, Rocky, because I am not looking forward to the rest of the way without Rashee Rice and the way that he had really been coming on. But for my guy Leon, wide receiver room is now worse than it was last year. I mean, I think Worthy is giving you more than anybody else you had last year outside of Rashee Rice. I'm much happier with Xavier Worthy through 4 games than I think I ever was with Kadarius Toney. Now, I'm not looking forward to the Chiefs having to play Sky more and more snaps moving forward. I think Juju, we need Juju to hold up. We need those old knees, Juju. We need you out here to be reliable and not make mistakes, because I don't know if they got anybody else that they can rely on. So I'd expect him to be involved more. I'd expect Justin Watson to be back in the mix more. But again, the fear from the Kansas City Chiefs is that Rashee Rice suffered a season-ending ACL injury. So gonna see what they do in the wide receiver room moving forward, Rocky.
Yeah, I mean, they got to do something. I think they need to make an addition from wherever it is, whether it's free agency, whether it's a guy on the practice squad. Like I said, like Nico Remigio, they got to do something, because what they have right now just isn't it. It's still not as bad as it was last year, right? Like having Juju on the team and having Worthy on the team makes it better than it was. And Justin Watson is still Justin Watson. He's still going to give you exactly one big play a game, and we saw exactly one big play from him on a 3rd down today, and that's just who he is. It's they need more, but they'll make it work if they don't.
Yeah, and I mean the Chiefs do still have a little bit of cap space out there. You know, I know there's always rumors of, you know, players that are available on the open market. Maybe they do try to go out and make a move in the wide receiver room. That typically hasn't been their approach. It's not how they generally try to do business, because their eyes are always towards the future and staying in a good cap situation. And usually going out and trading for wide receivers mid-season, it isn't how like good teams continue to stay good. But based off of all these injuries and the depth that we thought they had once had in the wide receiver room, it might be their only option at this point, because it might be the only way that they can get somebody else in there who can make plays on a weekly basis. And then if Brown doesn't come back before the playoffs, then the Chiefs are cooked. You know, again, I still think this defense is a top 10 defense. I think that Patrick Mahomes is still capable of making plays. Like, I think the Chiefs are going to be fine. It's just going to be, can they overcome all of that and still get to where they want to go? I'm not totally sure. Looking up available free agent wide receivers makes you feel worse. Don't do it. So I haven't done that yet, because I was like, let me get through this game before I go start looking at the guys that are available right now on the free agent market, because I'm sure it's not a list that makes you feel good, Rocky.
No, I've been doing it for weeks, and it's Russell Gage, it's Hunter Renfrow. Tim Patrick was out there, but now he's with the Lions. And that is about it. That's the top end of the wide receivers that are out there right now. You're looking at Jalen Guyton, Russell Gage, and Hunter Renfrow. That's what's available currently on the open market, which means that Brett Veach may have to make a trade. And then you say, okay, well then who's he going to trade for? The Bengals aren't going to trade T. Higgins to the Chiefs, even though he's not going to re-sign with them. I mean, if the Chiefs wanted to overpay, I still don't think the Bengals are going to trade T. Higgins, but they need to make a move like that But anybody who has a guy like that sees themselves as playoff contenders.
Yeah.
If there's not a bad team out there with a wide receiver that they're just looking to offload currently.
And I know that the Browns through 4 weeks look like one of the worst teams in the NFL. So there's a lot of they should trade Amari Cooper rumors swirling at the moment. Like, obviously, I would love for the Chiefs to land Amari Cooper. I just don't know if they can make that happen at this point, because they put the money into the wide receiver room already, and they were banking on this room being better, and it was better until this kind of injury. And a single unlucky play in preseason game number 2 takes Hollywood Brown out for the entire regular season. And then another unlucky play in week number 4, a catastrophic freak accident play takes out your budding superstar wide receiver. So I don't think the Chiefs are desperate yet. And it does feel like sometimes those kinds of moves are like desperation plays. And I think the Chiefs generally try to steer clear of those kinds of moves. And I think they've been good at that for the most part. So we'll have everything you need to know up at Foolish Club Media. Follow us on Apple and Spotify. Please make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. And make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can follow Rocky on Twitter at Rocky Magaña. I'm Steven Serda. That's where you can find me. Again, we will be back tomorrow at noon with the latest episode of The Daily Fix with Ron Hughley. We will talk to you then.